Just days after the Prime Minister's visit to Manipur, the situation seems to be still tense. We're speaking to Dr. Sailen Howkip, who is the spokesperson of the KNO, which is one of the organizations that also entered into an SOO, that is the cessation of hostilities agreement with the MHA very recently. Mr. Howkip, thank you very much for speaking to India today.
Good afternoon,
Can we
Anish.
get a sense of what is happening really in Manipur right now? What is the situation on the ground? Because we are getting information about certain violent attacks. We're getting certain information about that things are not entirely completely fine just yet.
Thank you, Anisha. The problems that you've heard is confined to a small pocket in a town called Lamka in Churachandpur district. It's a case of juvenile delinquents up to some mischief. It started the day before the Prime Minister was due to arrive, which is the 12th of September. There was an incident of these young people vandalizing certain decorations that were set up for the Home Minister's visit. And the police came into action, and a number of them were arrested and kept in custody at the police station. So that evening, the police took control of the situation. Nothing more happened. The following day, of course, as you know, the place was under strict vigil by the law, the security forces, etc. And the Prime Minister came and went. The day after that, on the 14th, the young people went to the police station and demanded the release of their friends. And the police, of course, couldn't oblige to that because the magistrate had given no order. And so they got violent and they started pelting stones at the security forces. And again, that was also contained very rapidly. And so things are under control. So this is not a major issue. It's an incident that has happened in town, and it is perfectly contained now. But sadly, that same night or early morning, 1 a.m., the External Affairs Secretary of KNO's house at New Lamka was torched by, we think, perhaps the same group of people. We don't know for sure, but apparently it is to be, yes, I've been told that it's the same group of people who went into all that rubbish. So
So it is now, are you now saying, sir, that there is a group of young people who is attacking police as well as KNO leaders, and they're not exactly part of your organization or any known organization? Is that what is happening on the ground?
yes, these are civilians, these are youngsters, and they attacked one KNO leader's house, which is in the vicinity of the location that I was talking about in New Lamka. So now I think it's all settled, and soon it will all be back to normal as we can expect.
Mr. Hawkip, you were one of the people who came to Delhi for the talks with the MHA. Is that correct?
It is correct.
So, what happened in those talks? What are we expecting now with the SOs being signed?
You see, I'll have to give you a brief account of the history of SOO in regard to the signing of the extension on the 4th of September. See, SOO is an agreement, a legal agreement signed among the MHA, which represents the center, and the state government, and the UPF and KNO, who are the SOO group. It was signed, this tripartite agreement was signed in 2008, and it has been
Of
going on
course.
since. But as you know, from that point until the 3rd of May 2023, our demand was simply an elevated, a slightly upgraded autonomy within the state and in a territorial council platform. But it became quite evident that the state government or the people in the valley were objecting to this kind of devolution. And on the 3rd of May, all hell broke loose. The pretext was the Valley people asking for scheduled tribe status, but that is not really the case
Of course,
because
that happened in 2003, and we're now in
23.
2005. uh, And it has been, I beg your pardon, 2023, and now we're in 2025,
Mm.
and we're seeing. Are we? And what that is exactly my question, sir. It has been 2 years of violence. It has been 2 years of complete unrest in this state.
Mhm.
So now, with the SOO extension being signed, are we likely to see any changes, or is the situation that is on the ground still unchanged?
See, the situation on the ground in the valley might remain unchanged. Because the
Okay.
Valley people are against the very purpose of the SO agreement. That's why the state government and the Rambai Tengol at one point decided to abrogate it. Whereas the center and the SO group have come into this agreement to find an amicable solution to our political demand. So SOO is essentially to bring about uh, a sense of a semblance of order in society, that there should be no violence, no shooting, etc., so that we could talk at the table. Now, government was keen to pursue this post 2023 3rd May incidents, and extension was actually due on the 29th of February 2024. But the state and the valley people objected to it, and they hijacked the whole thing uh, till the 4th of September. And it became possible on the 4th of September because of the center's commitment to this legal agreement to pursue our issues in a civil and democratic fashion. And so now that has been established, and you know, quite frankly, it's possible. This has been possible because the popular government is not there at the moment, and president's rule is there, and the valley dominant group who used to obstruct it have been sort of put to rest for a while. And the center
Okay.
has done the right thing with the governor's office participating, and it's a tripartite agreement signed on the 4th of September. Now talks will ensue in the next week or so. I don't know exactly when. And we will be dealing with our issues, which is within the country, in a practical and amicable way.
So the effectively your demand regarding the autonomy of governance in the hill areas, and uh, the issue that, as you say, the valley, what you call the valley people, is still ongoing. Am I correct in reading that?
Yes, that is perfectly clear because the Valley people have not made a clear statement about participating in the tripartite agreement signed. Of course, now the governor's office has sent officials to the extension meeting on the 4th. That represents the state,
Okay.
and that is valid. It's official. It's fine. But in terms of the murmurings that's going on in the valley, uh, interestingly, the Rambai Tengol took a U-turn and were in favor of the SO extension, whereas the Kokomi, the civil society organizations, continued to barrage it. Now, of course, I would underline the Rambai Tengol's sense of, I don't know what you'd call it, but they were saying they're in favor of the SOO agreement being extended and political dialogue taking place. And they underline it should be within the territorial integrity of Manipur, which is no longer the case because on 3rd May they expunged us from the valley, chased us out with all our, you know, belongings, possessions, buildings, all our attachment in the valley totally burned to ashes. And now we only want to remain in our hills and develop the hills as part of the state, no more, but part of the country definitely. And we are asking the government to give us administration to be able to govern ourselves. And constitutionally, we have consulted legal experts, and the only possible route is actually just two options. Either you ask for a state or UT. And we are a small group, and like other union territories, which are small, we want direct central rules. So we're asking the government to please consider union territory status for us with legislature. And that process will begin
So,
now.
was this demand made during your meeting with the Home Ministry regarding the
We have
separate
already
territory, the
submitted that.
separate UT?
Yes, we submitted that demand already on the 1st of September 2023. Just that because SO was not extended yet, the talks on the subject couldn't start, and now it will, because on the 4th of September, government has extended the agreement. The path is
Okay.
clear now.
So the path, according to you, is to separate the hill territory into a separate union territory or a separate state.
A separate union territory, not a state.
Okay. And how does that work? I mean, if I can just sense of how does that work out exactly? Because all the communication lines, the transport lines are aren't they through the valley?
Well, that is nothing extraordinary. All states in India are interconnected by national highways from one state to the other. And when we have our own status as well, the same will prevail. We are not a foreign country. We are not a foreign nationals.
And of course. And in a more practical question, sir, since and I please pardon me if I'm incorrect in this. The hill areas are surrounding the Imphal Valley. There is Churachandpur on one side. There are other districts, other hill districts on the other side. So, how do you propose this separation to happen in the first place?
In practical terms, the reason these separations, for example, the buffer zone which is being maintained by the security forces is in view of the current political climate. After our status for UT is given, the boundaries are already demarcated long ago. The valley districts and the hill districts have clear-cut boundaries. Those will remain, and those are generally along the lines where the buffer zones are. So at the outset, once our status is given, of course, overnight, things won't happen the way bordering states in other parts of the country functions. But for security reasons, for both sides of the border of the states and the UT, it will have to be carefully monitored by the security forces to ensure that nobody is injured. There's no untoward incident happening anywhere. But in due course, give it, I don't know, 10, 20 years, 30 years, things will normalize, and it will be similar to a landlocked state in the heart of the country, surrounded by different states, and there's no problem. So the same thing will be replicated.
So if I may ask, one of the big allegations against the key organizations against the demand for a separate hill district were the allegations that were raised by the former government regarding the connections with the inter-country drug trade. It was also allegations of inter-country smuggling, especially from Myanmar, since Manipur is right at the border. And in fact, I visited your state during the 2022 elections, and the border areas are extremely porous. So, how do you respond to these allegations about the foreign influences and the foreign money coming in?
Okay, thank you. That's a very pertinent question. First of all, our people being across the border, in the international border, I mean, is not a monopoly of the Kukis. Okay, there are other tribes from the communities from the state of Manipur also. And as you know, the valley-based insurgent groups, the core COM, who are secessionists, are essentially based in Myanmar. They have a much stronger stranglehold on whatever allegations that you listed. Our people are small players, like in the poppy cultivation, the allegation that we are the whatever, we are just the farmers. Who are the people, making things out of substances out of the farmers' produce? So it boomerangs back to them. They are the kingpins. They are the ones holding, all these roots far more than we do. And as I mentioned earlier, I repeat, it's not a monopoly of the cookies. I don't know who all are involved in that. I have no interest in that. I'm only interested in our political solution. and that's where my focus is. So all those allegations are, you point one finger, four of them are pointing to themselves.
If I can come back to then the meeting that you held with the MHA, what was discussed? What are we expecting, especially in the last couple of days, sir, after the Prime Minister's visit? Because, and I understand that you're with the KNO, and the press release that I'm going to be mentioning right now is by the KZC, but there is a press release that was issued just 2 days ago where it was said that the buffer zones must be maintained, that there is no cessation of hostilities per se, and people from the valley must be careful not to violate the buffer zones. What does this mean really politically when there is talk about returning of peace, when there's talk about laying down arms? Why then are these kind of warnings being issued?
Because there are precautionary measures. As I mentioned earlier, supposing we got our political status that we demanded, overnight, people are not going to be able to travel freely. That would be disastrous. You can't ensure their safety. It's out of concern for the safety of people from anywhere, whether it's the valley people or us, not violating the buffer zones. And they are being maintained, looked after by the security forces. You can't push your way through there. It would be dangerous for both sides. So on the KZC's statement issued on the 4th of September, they said, we haven't blocked National Highway. We are not responsible for opening thereof, but they appeal that government looks after the commuters and also the goods being transported through that highway, so that there's no untoward incident, because we can't be responsible for their safety. So they've asked for proper security measures for those goods applying on the national highway and also for the commuters. And well, the Imphal highway for cookies is also open, but we will not venture in. And if we do, it is at our own risk. And similarly, if anyone wants to go through that national highway, it's up to them. It's at their own risk. What KZC said is, as a government, let the security forces provide adequate security. So there's nothing to worry about there. What is decided in terms of the national highway, I'll repeat, KZC did not block it. They didn't open it. It's always been open. So there's nothing contradictory in their statement to say the buffer zone must be maintained. It has to be maintained. We don't want anyone's lives risked.
Sir, we've seen multiple instances of blockades being set up by the Kuki organizations over the last few years. And that has always been the allegation that blockades are being set up. And in fact, if I remember correctly, back in 2022, when I had come to your state, there were multiple instances where cars had been set on fire. There were blockades. There were people being asked not to enter certain areas. In fact, I was told by the then officials that even though I'm here as a journalist covering elections, I should try not to go into certain areas, into Churachandpur. So what is the situation now?
Well, that means I shouldn't repeat what has happened from 23, 24, and you want to go to what it is now. Now, unless you want me to say something about those blockades, etc., in 23 and 24. And at that time, it was necessary to protect our lives because thousands of people from the valley, led by the Manipur police commandos, the security forces of the state, were leading these mobs of thousands trying to break through into our areas to come and burn and kill. And they managed in many, many places. So those had to be installed, and that was not sufficient. And the army, the security forces from the center came and created the buffer zone to make sure that Meiteis don't come into our areas and we don't go into their areas. That's for safety for both sides. That's 23, 24. 25, there are no more bunkers or barricades. The only point where there is strict vigilance is the buffer zones, so that Meiteis will not foolishly cross over, or Kukis, foolishly cross over to the other side and risk their lives. That's all. There's nothing else. And 23, 24, while we agreed to National Highway being open, which we did close for a while in 2023 as economic blockade, when the Home Minister asked us to open it, we did. and goods went through, but from Imphal, the valley people completely blocked even essential medical equipment, medicine to go to the hills throughout 23, 24. So, who's
Okay.
pointing fingers again now?
All right. So just my one last question. With the Prime Minister's visit now, and the conversation now open with the MHA, what are you and your organization hoping for in the next few weeks or months?
Well, nothing more than what has already been discussed. The purpose of the SO extension is to hold political dialogue so that we discuss our demands, our issues amicably in a civil way across the table. And that process should begin now, that the popular government that was and that is not now has not been able to scupper that process, which they were successfully doing so in 23, 24. Now the governor's office has participated. And so we imagine proper dialogue will commence between the government of India, the state government, and us, and we'll find a solution so that we'll put an end to the misery that is being caused to both sides, particularly those in the relief camps. So our objective is to bring peace and normalcy, but with due process of justice as well as political status for us, so that we will no longer be under the majoritarian rule, which completely was involved with state cooperation in the genocide and ethnic cleansing of the Kuki people from the valley.
You're saying it was the Meitei groups and the former that was responsible for blocking the talks so far?
Yes, definitely. It was open. The state cabinet took a unilateral decision to abrogate SOO in February 2025. And preceding that, on the 24th of January, the Arambai Tengal summoned the legislators, including the Union Home Minister of the Union and the Rajya Sabha MP at Kangla Fort, which was formerly Assam Rifles, and dictated that, and they had about 5 demands, and one of them was to abrogate SOO. And subsequently, within weeks, the Manipur State Legislative Assembly took a unilateral decision and abrogated SOO. So it has been in limbo all this while until governor's rule came, if I may underline that, and there is justice beginning to manifest. So we are hopeful that the government will be responsible, as they have shown, and they will take this process to its logical conclusion.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Howkip, for speaking to India today. We hope that the situation will continue to stay peaceful and the life will come back to normal in Manipur. Thank you very much,
Thank you very
sir.
much. Thank you very much, Anisha.